So my fibroid story actually started with a pregnancy. I went to go get checked on and found out I had fibroids. I didn't know the location, I didn't know the size, no kind of information was given to me as to what to expect. But a few weeks down the line, I had severe cramping and massive bleeding. I went to the hospital. I was passing clots the size of like golf balls, literally. Turns out that the fibroid was competing with implantation, and so it caused a miscarriage where the embryo, the fetus could not implant. So I went through that whole process of recovering from a miscarriage in the wake of understanding that I had fibroids I had to deal with.
Most of my life, I had periods that were like about a week long and super painful. I can remember one time being carried out of my high school because my cramps were so bad, and I would always vomit on the first day because of how strong the cramps were. And you know, for me, it was normal. This was my period, and I just thought everyone had painful periods and everyone had heavy periods. I never knew anything different. In 2011, while I was living in rural Benin, I had a problem where I was bleeding for more than 10 days. And not just bleeding, I also had really big blood clots. And it was something I'd never experienced before. The unfortunate thing was I was still having this heavy bleeding, the blood clots and everything, and I had to take a 5-hour bus down to town on roads that are not that great. And I remember during that trip having to ask the driver to stop because I had to change my pad. And you know, my poor boyfriend at that time, I needed him to help me and cover me because literally I had to change my pad on the side of the road. So finally, I arrived to Konamah and made it to the doctor's office, and he was the first person in 2011 to tell me that I had fibroids. I didn't know what it meant, you know, and at that time he prescribed a hormone to me to stop my period because I'd been bleeding for so long, and to also shrink my fibroids. Fast forward, I believe about a year later, I was living in Rome, Italy. And again, you know, I was used to the cramps, and I just always knew to brace myself every month for those cramps. And what happened is I woke up one day in the middle of the night and I was like, wait, did someone get murdered? There was just so much blood. I was in a pool of blood, you know, super embarrassed. I'm by myself and I was embarrassed, like, oh my God, this is crazy, and just trying to like wash everything.
So I really descended into sort of like a deep depression of trying to understand why I was going through what I was going through, and began to sort of examine my medical history and realize that there were many signs, but the medical community just never really pointed out. I had been anemic since I was 16, for as long as I can remember, and not a single doctor had ever mentioned that perhaps that was indicative of a deeper problem. They just didn't understand why I was anemic. I was being given iron pills.
The thing that it was for me is that I started gaining weight, and I never gained weight. And I started putting on weight every time my period was coming. And I'm like, so the only reason that I actually went to the doctor is because I gained weight, and it felt abnormal because I was working out and I wasn't losing weight. And usually when I start working out, I lose weight very quickly. That's what actually took me to the doctor in 2015. And I went to a gynecologist, and well, first I went to a primary care doctor, and she examined me, and then she recommended that I go see a gynecologist and get tested. And that's when the gynecologist told me that my uterus was the size of a 24-week pregnancy. And that's how big my fibroids had gotten. And I was like, oh, you can just give me the little hormone pill. That's what they do, it shrinks them. And they're like, no, you can't do that at this point. Like, you're too far gone.
I think for me, what kind of shocked me through my process was, it wasn't shocking, but it was shocking. It was shocking because with the frequency and how common it is amongst women of African descent, nobody's talking about it in a way that I feel really packs the punch. And just think about how much information or how much we're told consistently to get checked for breast cancer. But throughout my entire gynecological life, nobody ever asked me. And you know what's funny? I've been anemic my entire...
Same.
For so long. And not a single healthcare professional, whether African, whether American, whether Black or not, ever said, you're a Black woman, the pathology is high, the risk is high, the likelihood is high. Do you want to get screened early for fibroids? Because I feel like everybody who I've spoken to has every Black woman I spoke to has had a fibroid story.
Right. But you know what? I think it goes back to period shame, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't talk about our periods. We never say, well, how many tampons do you use? Are you using light, regular, heavy, super plus like I'm using?
Ultra.
Okay, ultra, yes, Kotex Ultra. We never have those conversations. Or I've never asked someone, have cramps from your period made you vomit? Because mine do.
Wow.
Or for me, women are superheroes. So I've sat in plenty of meetings feeling like my uterus is attacking me, but I'm sitting there still having a conversation. And even if I'm in a room with only women, I'll never tell them, guys, forgive me, I'm on my period.
So fast forward, after I found out I had fibroids, I then got some doctor's opinions about what the best thing was for me. I got 2 opinions and they both were very clear that I had to have a full-on surgery. Not minimally invasive, but a fully invasive surgery to remove the most problematic fibroids. And so I did that. I basically went through a procedure that's not unlike the incision a woman would endure if she had a C-section. And they were able to take out 6 fibroids, which pretty much the most problematic ones, and left a bunch of little ones behind.
And so I found out that I had to have surgery. And my mother, who is a registered nurse, she's like, no, you need a second opinion because, no one wants their kid to have surgery. But I got a second opinion, and that second opinion was, you need surgery. So I found a doctor to perform it. And luckily for me, I was able to do laparoscopy. So it was minimally invasive. It was supposed to be outpatient surgery. And, I didn't think it would be too much of a disruption to my life. And I ended up having to stay overnight because I had some complications during surgery. And my recovery period was about 6 weeks. And it could have been shorter if I didn't try to push myself, but you know how we can be.
And with everybody that I talk to, the way they find out about fibroids is always catastrophic. And for me, I'm just like, is there any way that we can find out about our fibroid situation before it has to be a catastrophe? Right. And that's what I really want to get to the heart. Yeah. That's the heart of the matter for me, is that how do we able to say, oh, I think I might have fibroids, or I need to get checked for fibroids before that miscarriage, before that 10 days of bleeding, before that time that you passed out from bleeding too much, or before the time in my mother's case where her hemoglobin level, her iron level, her blood level got so low that she was at risk. She passed out, and she was at risk of a heart attack because she literally had no blood in her. Why does it always have to be catastrophic before it's an issue? I just feel like, why do Black bodies have to go through this? And I understand it's not only Black women have it, but the numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I think to your point, like, and the thing is, we don't even know what the real numbers are, right? There's not a lot of research happening in the space of fibroids because it's mostly Black women that are suffering. And to your point about screening, we screen for breast cancer. Black women need to be screened for fibroids starting around 21, because most of the people I know who've had issues, it comes in somewhere in their late 20s. The catastrophes are happening. Usually, I think, from what I've just casual conversation, no research, but it seems that most people are being affected like in their late 20s, early 30s. So if we could get like screening before the age of 25, we can stop those catastrophes from happening.
That's the way I see it, because what I really want from this, Jessica, like what I really want to see is that I'm not just interested in awareness. I'm not interested in thoughts and prayers. That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. I want to see systemic change in how we regard issues that predominantly exist, you know, in our community. I want to see a change in the disease prognosis of fibroids. I want to see a change in how we approach the pathology of fibroids, right? That will take a lot of work, including destigmatization of periods, as you've mentioned. But I want to go to a doctor who will say, have you gotten your breast cancer screening? But also, because you are a Black woman in her early 30s, I'm gonna ask you if your mother, just like they ask you, has your mother, your auntie, your sister ever had breast cancer? They should ask a Black woman, has your mother, your auntie, your sister ever had fibroids?
Do you know?
Do you know? Because then we're sensitized to breast cancer. Even though I'm not saying Black women don't get breast cancer, but I am saying that our pathology lies in fibroids. In America, it's 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Here in Ghana, here in West Africa, it's more like 9 out of 10. So it's basically almost it's rising, and the less attention we give to it, the less research that goes into it. Let me tell you something, the more it's gonna get to 100%.
And now here I am, 4 years post my surgery, needing another surgery, having really big blood clots again, experiencing like excruciating pain from my cramps. And so my fibroid story, unfortunately, isn't over. And so, you know, when I'm done visiting every country in the world, I'm gonna take some time to go see a doctor and just figure out what's next for me and my uterus.
So for me, it was really an eye-opening experience of awakening, of knowing my body and what to look for. And so I encourage people, if your period is super heavy, if you're cramping, if it's hard to get out of bed, if you're super tired, if you're chronically anemic and you are of African descent, I really do encourage that you do get screened for fibroids, because for me, I believe the signs are there and so is the therapy. What is something, big or small, like what is something that you're going to do? Like,
yeah, right, because we want to move past conversation.
We want to move past conversation. So like, what are our commitments out of this discussion?
So, you know what I'm going to commit to? Once a month on my platform, on Instagram, I'm going to have a conversation about periods. That's going to be my commitment. And my reminder will be my period coming every single month. So the first day of my period, every month on Instagram, I will put up a post about periods and have a different conversation about periods.
Wow. That is...
You heard it here first.
I did. I'm just thinking about all the data. Okay, because I'm a data person. Right. Like all the data, all the good data that's gonna come out of it.
Go into that comment section and get that data. No, that's my commitment.
Okay. I'm gonna one up you.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you a challenge.
Okay.
I'm gonna announce a challenge very soon.
Okay.
I'm gonna take 10 young women between the ages of 21 and 29. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pay for them to get screened for fibroids. And I challenge you to do the same.
I will do the same.
Yes.
I will do the same.
So we're committing at least to start that's where I want to begin.
Yes.
10 young women between 21 and 29, come with me. I'm paying for your screening.
Okay, I'm here, I'm doing it.
Done. And we're gonna you know what? It's about to be a challenge. I'm about to tag a whole rack of people.
Yes, and then we're gonna challenge other people.
I know a whole rack of people that we both know that we need to be challenging for this.
In different countries, and that's
Literally.
and that's what I think is so amazing about both of our platforms is that we can talk to women all over the world. So it's not just gonna be in the U.S., in Ghana, and Uganda. It's like we can challenge people living in different countries too.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So we're doing it.
We're
High
doing
five.
it.
And then when we're done, and there's just so much more that's gonna come out of this space.
Yeah.
Like, definitely watch the space.
Thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you. Are you kidding me? We wouldn't be sitting here even having this conversation if we hadn't just
had a conversation. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.